Well, welcome to Yom Teruah 2024. What an exciting time all around the world. We're going to hear from folks all over the place. That's why a lot of what you're going to see this weekend is on Zoom calls. We have someone very special in the studio with us today who was just around the world. Please welcome Paul Shea. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Scott, for having me.
Certainly. Well, we're glad to have you, and it just happened to be that Yehovah wanted you here at this time. You were just in, where was it, Japan?
In Japan, about 2 weeks ago, Osaka.
Okay. Now, that's really weird to me because usually when I first heard you say that before the cameras came on, usually we're talking to you about China and Taiwan, but now you're telling me about Korea and Japan. And why these two places, specifically Japan? What's up with Japan?
You know, all of a sudden, during the past 2 years, I encountered quite a few people, missionary pastors from especially Chinese and Taiwanese. They all of a sudden they have that kind of stirred up from Yehovah to go to Japan. To start. They think the time for Japan salvation now is at hand. So Japan all of a sudden come into the radar of the God's end time plan.
Why? Now you tell me that Japan is very, very low Christian population.
Yes, I was interviewing a second generation of a young pastor in Japan, and he was telling me even, so for so many years, right? Japan still is 0.8% Christian.
Really?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah.
See, that's strange because usually, I know that Korea, you've taught me about Korea, and that's
about 30%,
Okay, 30.
Yeah.
Now that's, of course, South Korea.
South Korea, yes.
Okay. Do you know what it is in North Korea? Is there some pockets of underground church or?
Well, there are a lot of underground churches because I'm connected to some Korean pastors. There's a story later, but these South Korean missionaries, they are special forces. They go in, they don't care about their life.
So Japan is less than 1% Christian. So what is the predominant faith there?
They call it the Shindo. Yeah, Shindo.
Okay. Is that related to like what we would know as Buddhism or something like that, or is it something different?
I'm not an expert to it. It's kind of similar, but not equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Similar. Interesting. Yeah. So now they're going into Japan. So is this just Christian pastors? I'm specifically, I guess I'm asking, is Japan just, are they trying to get them to understand the Bible first and be real basic about it? Or are we going right in there with Hebrew roots right away?
Oh, I think there's only one way. It's the right way, which is the Hebrew root.
Okay. Don't waste your time with all that.
Don't waste the time. We don't have time to beat about the bush. Right? You got to cut through the chase. Yeah. So that's what I'm planning to do. So I have my co-workers there. We have meeting there too. So we think, hey, now, 0.8% sounds great because just like Apostle Paul said that, hey, I determined I go to the places that I no land that the gospel have not been preached before, right? So 0.8% sounds exciting for foreigners.
Exactly. Well, like you said, the time is now. I mean, you had something right before the cameras came on. I said, oh, you've got to say that on camera.
Yeah.
You said something about a wedding, and so this time is like what?
I was, just before I came, like 2 days ago, day before yesterday. I was in Virginia, a Korean church. That's the first time I was invited, to share a message in Korean church. Yeah, and I told them right out of the gate. I said, we live in such an exciting time. I said, everything's so real. Now we got wedding coming and we got funeral coming. Both are massive scale. And there's no bit in between. So, you got to make up your mind, which party you're going to.
It's on the same day.
It's all on the same day. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss out. That's for sure. Okay. Wow. Okay. So things are happening in Japan. But this, you said now, since you were here last time, there have been 3 major things that have happened. And they all revolve around the tiny country of Taiwan.
Yes.
So we've talked, so let's get into that first. So we talk about China, huge place, Korean, already very much Christian.
Yes.
Japan is a new frontier.
Yes.
Why does all of this revolve around Taiwan?
Well, that's a great question. It took me so many years to figure it out. Finally, I figured it out, because 2.5 years ago, I started to have that kind of, prompt from Holy Spirit to spend most of my time in Taiwan. So that's why I, now use most of the time there. And the reason is that I saw in God's end time plan in that Taiwan play a key role, just like a tongue of human body, being the smallest. But whatever the tongue says, it's going to dictate whether it's life or death. So it directs the direction of that person. So in the same way, Taiwan, in God's plan, is like the helm, a small helm of a big Titanic boat. And that big Titanic boat is the massive billions of Chinese, right? Their destiny in God's kingdom. And I think, Michael talked about Isaiah 49, right? People from Chin, right? Sinning. Yeah, so who gonna to steer at the end time, at this raging water, right, to the right directions? When all the storm is coming, winds are blowing, and what's the message? So God told me, go back to Taiwan, take the helm, and then raise up the banner, renew the message, for such a time like this. So that's what I'm doing. And God gave me the message about 3 keys. That's the keys of the house of David. Actually, it's one skeleton key, but 3 parts. One is the return to the Hebrew root. You got to re-understand, reinterpret Bible, from that, right? And number 2 is it's all about the kingdom, the gospel of the kingdom. It's not about personal salvation. You go to heaven, those nonsense. The kingdom's on earth. The kingdom going to give birth on earth for 1,000 years. What are you talking about, right? Going to heaven, what? Right? So the it's all about the kingdom. And then, so that's the gospel of the kingdom. And then number 3 is the fulfillment of end-time prophecies. Because as you can see, it's all mainstream, right? From the return to Hebrew, all start off from the covenant, with Abraham, and from there, right? And then you go to the gospel of the kingdom. That's how Jesus came and taught. And that's how these disciples in the book of Acts turned the whole world upside down. Because only when you preach the restore in the Hebraic root, the gospel of the kingdom, that's when the power of the Holy Spirit come upon and to testify that gospel is true. And because we lost that for so many years, right? So then we're lacking of power, And then number 3, the end time, because only when you understand where are we at the biblical timeline, then that's how we start to understand the significance of the current event unfold, right? Space and time. So if you don't understand which timeline, which part of time we're in, you're losing the whole thing, the significance of it. Then you don't get prepared. You don't know, where's next, going, and what is the forerunners of the Antichrist. We saw a lot of them, especially in the United States, right? They are so diligent. They are so serious to prepare for the way for the Antichrist. So same thing, we are the forerunners, like the second John the Baptist, right? That we are going to also rise up. We know God's plan, and then we know how to take proper position and how to prepare for the next. So when they are ready, we are ready. So imagine 2, Porsche on, running on the highway without speed limit. And we're like charging up. So when they get there, we get there. They're ready, we're ready.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to ask you 2 things all about Taiwan, but I want to come back to that in a second. But first of all, you mentioned that the people of Qin. So if people have not heard that before, so the Chinese people are mentioned in the Bible?
Yes, I think, I think it's probably 2016 or 17 when Michael Rood first time came to our Kingdom for Jesus conference in California. That sent the bomb, absolutely the bomb throughout the Chinese world, because that's the first time we ever heard about Qin, and he talked about that.
The people of Xin, so Xin or Qin, but that means southeast,
we know. So we understand it's Chinese. So he explained that, so that's how, now almost all the Christians, Chinese Christian, they understand that part.
Interesting.
Wow. And that's our destiny.
That's really that's very an honorable thing. Wow, my people are mentioned in the Bible. Is that how they take it very personally?
It's so they're all fired up, and that's why like what? Okay, so what should we do? And what's the direction? And then that's why Taiwan comes into play because we are the helm.
Right. Now I want to ask about that. So that's what I wanted to come to. So it almost seems like Taiwan is likened to Israel, a very tiny place with enemies all around, and yet they still prevail. And so is that why China is after Taiwan? Like, why does Taiwan play such an important role?
Oh, here's the thing. That's why I say you got to understand the Bible timeline, right? Yeah. Especially after October 7th. That got to be a very big end time sign because things before October 7th and October 7th and after totally changed geopolitical wise, in the natural realm and also spiritual wise in the spiritual battlefield. For example, in Chinese history, whether in mainland China or Taiwan, there have never been an anti-Semitism. Before, throughout all the histories, and even during the World War II, there's ambassador, consular, whose name is called He Fengshan. He, just like the Schindler, he just disobeyed the government's instruction. He issued thousands and thousands of visas to the Jews so they can get out. It's a huge story. But anyway, but after October 7th, all of a sudden, the Jewish people in China, they wake up and like all of a sudden, oh my God, China is no longer safe. You know why? Because the CCP government, their policy, right? Their policy is to stand with Palestine, Iran, and Hamas. So they refuse 3 times to condemn, Hamas, this, horrible terrorist attack. But in the very sharp contrast, Taiwan government at the very first time, I mean, right in that moment, without hesitation, condemn Hamas as a terrorist, and then also condemn Iran later on. So that put a sharp contrast. All of a sudden, and so I know, some, because I go to the synagogues in Taipei now. So be friends with these, Jews and rabbi. Yeah, and they said that, Taiwan becomes such a safe place for them. In Taiwan, they are not afraid to tell people they are Jews. So just that also very important. That's why, And then we see, in November, just right after October 7th, for the first time, I saw anti-Semite group. They form an alliance in Taiwan. And properly parade, on the street. Yeah, and
are they taking after the American colleges and universities? Is that what they're looking at and saying we need to do like they're doing, or where did this come from?
Yeah, they said that. Oh, we are sorry, we are late. That we apologize to the whole world. Now, we represent for the general public opinion of Taiwanese people, which goes against with our own government's policy, right, to stand with Israel.
Yeah.
And like I said, yeah, and they went to the Parliament Congress to also protest, asking the government, Taiwanese government, to change their diplomatic position and policy. And so, and so that comes to the second story. So I say, oh my God, this is the sign of the time, right? Never, 5,000 years Chinese history, never you saw that happen.
Now, let me just stop there for a second.
Yeah.
So people might say, okay, well, I get what you're saying. So Taiwan, I kind of know it's a free country, where China is not. So is that what makes it so special? Like Israel is the only democratic place around the whole area.
Yes, because the main value of Taiwan and Israel, and also the external circumstances geopolitically wise, similar, right? We're all facing big enemies around, right? And they keep coming, threatening, and that's one. And number two, are very tiny, right? Both are very tiny. And number three, it would it could go another extreme, which is like because you don't feel safe, then you will go for dictatorship. You want to concentrate all the powers. It's natural, but no, Taiwan and Israel instead, we go for human right, democracy, religious, freedom, everything. So everybody has the equal right, and we stick through that, and we have the real fruit, because here's the significance about Taiwan, because even we have billions of Chinese, right? You have Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, right? But Taiwan is the only one example who went through the peaceful transition of the power between the two parties and really operate under this two-party, rotation. And now, of course, there's the third party rising up. But anyway, so it's a true democracy.
It's very much like the United States, the two parties.
Yeah, it's unlike Hong Kong used to be, right? Just like under, the colony, and although they have certain degree, but they don't have that kind of two-party, like real full-blown of the, the democracy system, working and in experience by real-life experience generation. So, and Singapore always one big party dominating. So what Taiwan stands for, it has that kind of unique value as Chinese, right? So both of us stand for value that, hey, we Chinese, we can govern ourselves. We can still have all these human rights, right, and freedom. In the meantime, enjoy the economy prosperity, and both are creatives. So there's a lot of similarity. So when you support Israel, you support the main value of Taiwan too. Just versus Raisa. So just like, all the different religious groups in Israel, they also enjoy the exact same human rights, and so to me, in one of the international conference that I held in May, just a few months ago in Taipei, I said that, we both are like the small shining stars in that dark night. It's very small, but it's very shining. And it hurt the eyes of the enemies. That's why they want to put it out.
I was going to say, is that why China's always after Taiwan? Because they see it as the rudder, as the tongue.
Testimony. So in my mind, it's like a two witness. Israel and Taiwan, small, but this is a two witness. Right? You can have this kind of life. You can have this kind of system. You don't have to go for the one-party control.
Now, all the same, so because they have that freedom, maybe that's why the people are taking a wrong turn and siding with Hamas and with these Palestinians. But so you told me now that the Korean pastors have seen this, and they say, wait a minute, and they've started evangelizing in Taiwan?
No. That's another. They came to Taiwan because God put into their heart the missionaries. There have been missionaries from Korea in Taiwan for about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And some of them come from the biggest Korean church. So these are not like nobody. They've seen the world, but God sent them to Taiwan. Yeah, but so all of a sudden, like these 2-3 years, they realized the one new man vision. In the book of Ephesus. And so the pastor came and asked me to be the speaker. I said, wait a minute. Number one, your topic is the end-time church and Israel. I said, this topic is so hardcore in Taiwan. This is not a mainstream, message in Taiwan, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's, and I think this is so rare. And number two, you are Korean. And you should have this conference in Korea. Why Taiwan? And he said, God put into my heart. Jesus told me it's so important. Taiwan is so important. You got to wake up Taiwan, churches. And then all the pastors know, like the one new man, is so important, and stand with Israel. Yeah. And I said, really? Yeah. And because back into the past 20, 30 years, Taiwan pastor churches learned a lot, and being blessed, so much blessed by the Korean churches. So they respect the Korean churches, right? So it takes God's genius idea to use the Korean to come to Taiwan and tell, hey, one new man, and then And that's why some of the pastors, from the big church, some, not all, right? But at least some. And they're willing to participate, and they bring in 200, pastors and brothers and sisters from Korea. These Korean pastors, and some of them are the head of the seminary, big names.
A lot of influence.
They hit it in a big way. So start to rock the boat and make sure that, hey, there's no replacement theology, okay?
Wow.
Yeah, because that, right? So because that were directed, relate to the anti-Semitism, and so on and so on. So everything is related. And I've seen, all these things, God's moving in Taiwan. It's like, man.
Yes. And you were invited to speak at that conference, right?
I was the first speaker. They have more than 20, around 20 speakers. And I was invited to be the first one.
Wow, that's an honor. What did you speak on?
Well, I speak on here. I said, this one new man, okay? I said, it's not just one new man, okay? Actually, one new man means one new bride. Yeah, I said, because, we Gentiles were not just connected back to the root, because, this is the time for Ruth and Naomi to bless each other. Okay? And so when we be united into one, based on the Hebrew root, right? And the Torah. So now you can see the change of the quality. The nature will change, We will together become one new man. This is a brand new man. Because united into one. And this one new man is one new bride. And Jesus comes back, to marry only one wife. Mm-hmm. Right? How many wives? According to replacement theology or the pre-trips, right? He has come back first for the Gentile bride and come back for the Israel, bride. That's impossible. It's a total contradict. I said, yeah. So here, one new man, one new bride. And then when this happened, I said, this is the most important thing the Holy Spirit is doing right now at such a time like this. That's why we are seeing all these chests moving around so fast, right? And God is urging, like a Korean to come here and tell the Chinese, Taiwan, not China, Taiwan, because Taiwan is the helm. You got to influence into China, Chinese. So then we understand this, and then become one new bride. And then when the one new bride is finally cultivated, the body of Christ is finally completed, right? And then the head, which is the Christ, Messiah, right? So connected. It was the body, and then, from the head, the Messiah, the glory, the power, the authority, the holiness, everything is just, shoom, it's just like, go through the whole body from the head. And that's what, Apostle Paul saw in the book of, described in the book of Ephesus, this bride, the church, holy, glorious, and filled by the one who filled all things. And we are about to see that happen.
Now, when you're telling them all of this, was this conference a Hebrew Roots conference or just a one new man kind of?
The main thing is about one new man, but the main topic is the end time church in Israel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you wake some people up and start thinking different?
Yeah.
What were the comments like?
Yeah, they wow, we never heard of this, especially one new bride, right? And about filling up this, right? And and so on. And they're so excited. So I got these Korean pastors, even some of the head of the seminaries, they came and say, hey, I'm still memorizing what you, I said, that makes so much sense. And then I started to get an invitation to go to Korea. So all of a sudden, Korea doors open.
Wow. That's fabulous. Great. So are you going to sort of maybe take the next step and start talking about the feasts of the Lord and get them introduced to that?
You know what? Some of this, you will be surprised. Because that was one of my questions, for that missionary who held that conference. I said, hey, as far as I understand, Korean, they are big on the replacement theology. He said, yeah, it used to be. He said, but these recent years, they started to change. And he said, I knock on the doors of all those main, stream churches, and one by one they change. And here's the thing, Korean, they take action. They are actions. When they have the revelation, when they see it, they immediately take action. They don't wait. And that's why they they all of a sudden, we got it, and they move so fast. And then they come to Taiwan, to bless Taiwan. And next year, they will be in, the same conference will be in California. Yeah, and then the year after will be Mount Olive. And they are planning for 10,000 people to attend, in Mount Olive. Wow. So this is huge, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you're going to be involved in all of it, I hope.
I got sucked into it.
Sounds like you didn't mind. I mean,
well, yeah, that's why I just came from Virginia, that Korean church, just 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man. Well, now getting back to this anti-Semitism, I mean, you said this is the first time ever that, really?
Yeah, that's why it is such a sign. Yeah, and plus the contrast. Right, because as you know, the CCP government, they're very powerful as far as the propaganda, especially internal, right, propaganda to brainwash. So that's why, during the 5,000 years, the Chinese did not have that anti-Semitism, mentality. Now, all of a sudden, because of October 7th, they become anti-Semitic. So I got interviewed by one of the news reporters from Israel, an independent reporter. And she told me that she just interviewed some of the Jews in China, and they no longer feel they are safe in China because their social media, are filled with, those negative, thing, and go home and whatever. And then when they walk on the street, people, don't treat them nicely and so on. So all of a sudden, it's out of your dream. Like, no way. How come all of a sudden, it becomes unsafe. But Taiwan becomes so safe. And that's why, then so I organized, the Friends for Israel Alliance in Taiwan. And I held, we held international press conferences. Later on we can show the photos and or some of the video clips. And so we announced that here, in order to counter this, anti-Semitism group, in Taiwan, okay? So we are formally announcing the organization of our Alliance for Israel in Taiwan, and our only purpose is to guard Taiwan. That Taiwan's main value, totally match up with Israel's main value, mainstream value. And we are the real voice of Taiwanese people, not those people. The anti-Semitist group, they do not represent for Taiwan. And so our mission is to guard Taiwan never become the next, anti-Semitist nation. And that's why the helm, Taiwan, this helm, so important.
Well, exactly. Yeah, if it's going to be the rudder that steers all of Asia, essentially.
Yes.
It can't fall. And like you mentioned, they have geopolitical enemies, but now this seems to be a spiritual enemy coming in from the spiritual end of things to try and dismantle.
Because once Taiwan fall into that anti-Semitist trap, then the shield, divine shield of protection of Taiwan is removed.
Yeah.
That's so dangerous. So that's why. And then I said, okay, let's do this, and then a few days later we held a musical conference, a concert in Taipei, one of the park, and God gave me the inspiration, to name it, Love is Real.
Love is real. Okay, I see what you did there.
Yeah,
okay.
Love is real.
Love is real. Well, yeah, because, and like you were saying before to me, before the cameras came on, you said, because love and hate and, explain that.
Okay, so because we're calling love is real, right?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, also it implies love Israel, right? So and how love is real? The real love is without hatred, specific hatred to a specific group of people. No way. It doesn't matter whether it's Jews or Chinese or black people, whatever, right? So it doesn't matter. That's not love. Love and this hatred does not exist. That's not real love, right? So, and number two, peace. What's the real peace? Right? Real peace is without terror. Once you allow terror in the basket, that peace will never stand long, right? So that's our slogan, Yeah, and then we have that conference, and we did not go for any major donors. We said this got to be a grassroots. Okay, so everybody chip in $100 or $200 in equivalent Taiwanese dollar. So we got like more than $100,000 raised, within like 60 days, and more than 200 donors. And it's just grassroots, small amount, and then I was thinking probably like 500 people will come. But man, 1,700 people showed up, including the Jews in Taiwan.
Oh,
and the rabbis, that rabbi is interesting. His name is Cody, and he happened to marry an Aboriginal tribe princess in Taiwan. So we put them onto the stage and say, hey, look at this couple, right? You support Israel, it's Israel. Taiwan is Taiwan, Israel. We share the same value. That's why they have this marriage,
So what kind of things did people talk about at this conference? Like, what were you trying to portray, and what kind of tools did you give to people from the stage?
Oh, we for example, we use Taiwanese Aboriginal tribes. They come out and they sing in Hebrew. Yeah, for example, and then to bless, and also, for example, the Lord's Prayer, in singing, and in Hebrew by Taiwanese Aboriginal tribes, it's very high quality performance. The rabbi, speak about the value of the Judaism, so that. That the Taiwanese people understand that, for example, when we drink, right? In Taiwan, we say ganbei, right? In Japan, it's a kanpai, right? But in Israel, we say lahain, right? So why is lahain? Because to life. So Israel is the culture of, they always respect life. And then the rabbi further said that, in their teaching, when God made Adam, that dirt is not just from Jerusalem. That dirt is collectively from all parts of the world. So we are all one family. So that kind of soft cultural, influence, and we fill with high-level musical dance and songs, and even the ambassador of Israel in Taiwan came in the middle of secretly. We know that she will come, but so we didn't announce it. He didn't want us to do it, so she came, but then the anti-Semite group, they also came. And they were there, protesting, and trying to create some noises, and later on I can show you some of the photo I was holding. So then they were there doing that, like trying to interrupt. So, some of us said, no, we have to take a stand. So we should go up to them, and then these audiences, some of them also come out with us. We go in front of them. And then we pulled out the Israel flags, and Taiwan, and some have the Taiwanese flags. So we all lined up in front of them and to cover them up. So and then our flags so big. So there, and then I was holding one hand one Jewish people, Jewish man from synagogue, he was holding the Taiwanese flag, and I was standing side by side with him. I was on one hand, I'm holding that Taiwanese flag with him, and on the other hand, it's Israel flags, and we just spread it out and cover them. As it's
So did they give up and leave?
Yeah, because we are louder than them, and we are more people, but we peacefully, we just block them in the front, so yeah.
Good for you. That's so who came to this thing? Was it pastors or who? So
no, because
just anybody?
We did not mobilize. Again, we did not mobilize any churches in Taiwan, because here's the thing. I think it's kind of, that's why Taiwanese churches, and also other churches, around the world, in the United States, same thing. They have to be encouraged to and have that kind of spiritual guts, right, to take stand in the public, right? Because right now, a lot of big churches, they are afraid of argument, right? Because there are some Christians, I don't know why, they read the Bible, but they are anti-Semites, right? So there's argument, just like LGBT issues. So a lot of critical issues they don't want to talk about, don't want to openly guide the congregation. This is the position that we should take, this direction. They don't want to, so they don't come. I mean, as the organized, but it's all these grassroots, forerunners, who understand the Bible, who know the sign of this. And that is the So that is to Michael's credit, because Michael will be very, very happy, that so many of them rising up in Taiwan. And so that's why 1,700 people showed up, because we understand the Hebrew root. And once you understand the Hebrew root, and then you support Israel, simple. And they all came out. And they have been following, these people, they have been following our teaching throughout years. Michael Rood is well known, in Taiwan, also China. So it's all because of the message. That's why the message is so important. You have to have the banner. That's why God told me to go back to Taiwan, change that banner. Yeah, and that's why we are able to, gather, and they just come, and then they shocked a lot of churches.
So do you think, now speaking of shocking the churches, and it sounds like like you said, some Taiwanese churches are like American churches.
Yeah.
So with the last Trump, this is the theme of Yom Teruah, time is short.
Yeah.
Do you see a laziness in America against the Hamas protesters? Are we not doing enough? And what should we be doing in America?
I think, this is an end time, such a confusing time. Everybody looking for the correct direction. And this is the leaders, church leaders' duty and responsibility, to be able to declare their judgment, right? Which way to stand and what's in God's heart and God's plan. It's my people, it's my covenant, my land, my people. Whose covenant? Yehovah's covenant. Whose land? Yehovah's land. Whose people? Yehovah's people. So, do we have a problem with that?
Yeah, so stand up. It's like...
Yeah, and Yehovah said, this is my land, right?
Right.
And I'm happy to give it to Abraham and his descendants, my people. So do we have a problem with that?
Yeah. And speaking of a confusing time, you said that now, even in Taiwan, speaking of spiritual confusion and influence from the Hamas protesters, you told me about this guy who was in Kenya.
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
Huge. His name is David Stewart. And if you Google it, he's from Kenya, and he performed big signs and wonders. Huge signs and wonders. So if you look at it, it's like when people attend his meeting, you see like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. It's like a
like
miracle.
Billy Graham level.
Oh yeah. But huge miracles. Supernatural. Yeah. And because in such a time like this, just like Jesus warned us, right, in book of Matthew 24, right? So the first sign is deception, and so now, there will be people come in his name. They still proclaim Yeshua is Messiah, but they will deceive many, So you see this, and he proclaimed, he preached about being holy, which is totally correct, right? And also stand with Israel, all these good things. But in the meantime, he told people that he has the two spirit of the witness. Actually, the end time, the book of Revelation, those two witnesses is within him. He's one person, but two witnesses. And that's when I say, no. Yeah. And then, but here's the thing. In October, end of September, this month, in October, he's coming to Taiwan. And there are pastors who have been to Taiwan, who have been to Kenya, and they saw the miracles. And they said, wow, they're so impressed. They said, this must be the prophet, So they buy into that. So now they are organizing the big event in Taiwan, for him. And so now all of a sudden, there's a heated discussion again, in Taiwan. So you can see, give me a break. All of a sudden, Taiwan is so tiny. Why everybody come to Taiwan, try to influence Taiwan? Because Taiwan is the helm of that big Titanic that's going to influence Isaiah 49, the destiny of the Shinnin in God's plan in time.
So you run out of California, Kingdom for Jesus.
Yeah.
And you go over to Taiwan and elsewhere, obviously, all over the place. So, and you bring what Michael Rood's teachings are. to the people.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And I did, and actually, I just told them I have a summer break now. I haven't played for a long time. So I said, let's put a break for 3 months. I need to play again, But before that, like every Wednesday evening in a studio in Taiwan, Tabernacle of David, actually Michael and I was there he was talking about the mystery of iniquity, at that time there, so they support me, let me use their studio, big screen and so on. So I did 2 hours teaching every night. And actually I went through the chronological gospel, the 77 and Book of Daniel, all these. So we just finished that season, but now October 2nd, we're going to start out with the fall feast. So,
and are you going over there or doing this from California?
Taiwan,
Oh, you're going to Taiwan?
Yeah. And in the meantime, we are organizing these, forerunners, who have been receiving these messages, because they feel isolated, or lonely because still not being accepted by the mainstream. But these are forerunners. I told them, you guys, this is your calling. I said, Matthew 24, all the 10 virgins sleep. Right? Even the wise one. The only difference is the unwise one snoring. Right? Yeah. Right? But they all sleep. But at the middle of the night, these are the people who cry out, Messiah is coming, the bridegroom is coming. And I said, that is not just a parable. That's a prophecy. Jesus used that as a prophecy, and also that is his end-time plan. So he's to raise up these forerunners. These are the end-time forerunners. They don't get sleep.
You're doing a conference of these.
Yeah. So that's why I did that on October 21st last year in Taiwan. And that's when I said, hey, the first time, in Chinese Christian history, I'm calling out the end-time forerunner. Whoever want to receive, such calling, come to this conference. This is not a conference about getting the blessing or getting impartation or whatever, those kind of prosperity stuff. No. You want to receive that calling as the midnight criers, you come, And I was thinking, I said, this is pretty hardcore, right? I said, I know who will come, right? I think probably 50. So I have some young people there in Taiwan, who also follow Michael Rood's teaching, and then, so he said, Elder Paul, we cannot find the place for 50, we cannot find 100, 200, 300, the only one we can find is 500. The venue for 500 in Kaohsiung, and I said, 500? Where are we going to get 500? And they said, by faith.
Okay.
I said, okay. So then I said, we put out small, we just put out videos, a small promotional video to announce that, and they call me up. Later, and they 2 days later, they call. I say, Elder Paul, this is very unique. I said, within the first 48 hours, we have more than 100 people signed up. It's like they are just waiting for this. Normally in Taiwan, people wait until the very last moment they sign up. And you have to push them and push them. I said, this is different, And then he said that also, there's no such kind of conference before because that, we don't mobilize any churches. So he said that they look at all these attendees later on, like 500 of them on the spot. But online, it's like we're probably 7,000 during the week. They went back to watch, 7,000 views. Anyway, so he said that they told me it's more than 100 different churches. They came from more than 100 different churches, and they signed up either about 1 or 2. He said, that is totally unique. And so that, and at that time in Kaohsiung City, these mainstream churches, they also have their own, conference. And they all work together, for that conference, and we have the same time. And we have 500.
Wow.
Showed up.
So you had 500 people for your 500-person venue. You filled the place.
Filled the place, yeah. And then I told them, so after like 2-3 weeks, we announced that conference, I told them, said, okay, that's not promoted heavily. I want to see so that I know that this is totally, the finger of God, the movement of the Holy Spirit. So I said, just do it like, in the understated way, so I want to, so that I know these are the, Holy Spirit, bring them here. So they came, showed up. So I came to the stage. I said, where did you guys come from? I said, yeah. And then what's more astonishing is that I told them, I said, I have been pregnant for 20 years for this. 20 years, I'm going to deliver it today to give it the birth, and the forerunners, And then we start to hold hands. I said, everybody hold hands, and we travail for more than 10 minutes.
Wow.
And until I really feel my spiritual womb is relieved, it's given birth. I said, kingdom of God is by birth. You got to go through labor pain. It's not just descend on your lap. So then after that, and then, so I said, okay, whoever wants to receive, the calling, come, and boom, and then I said, okay, now I'm going to do one thing, very unique. I never done it before, and probably you never heard it before either. I said, now since majority, most of you already come and receive this call, answer this call, right? I said, if somehow in your spirit, okay, that you have the calling being a martyr to, for Jesus, and be the faithful witness all the way to the end. I said, I'm going to count to 3, okay? And you don't think, okay? Because if you will raise hand, you will raise hand. If you will not raise hand, you will not raise hand. Do not even think. And then I say, here we go, 1, 2, 3. And I will say, because I said this is by calling, right? Not by thinking, right? So I was thinking like probably 10% or 15%, man, 70%. Shoom. Wow. And it's like, shoom, and then I immediately started to weep. I said, this is totally the finger of God. Nobody can do this, right? Yeah. And then, so this is the sign of revival in Taiwan, yeah. And then this is real. And then we have strong messages also, right? Yeah, and then I said, and then they raised their hand. They don't want to put it down for like 15 minutes, and just like this, and started to weep. And I was like, but that kind of weeping is not like out of fear or sadness. It's like kind of they have an opportunity to declare that, and then the faces are so glorious, like no fear, and then all of a sudden I understand, like, wow, absolutely, no any demonic, power, all the demonic power destroyed, at that moment in Kaohsiung, at least, if not the entire Taiwan, because I realized that how powerful the spirit of the martyrs are. They are not afraid of death, and so you got nothing to take grip on, and they just look at that so, with such a determination and glory on the face. And it's like, man, this is it, Yeah. And then later on, the young brother told me, he said, hey, Brother Paul, I went back to look at the video. He said, when when they raise their hand, I can hear the sound in the air. And I said, what happened? How come there's a sound in the air? And he said, because you said, when you said 3, you didn't even finish the 3, right? Only said 3, the beginning of the 3 sound, they immediately raise up. All this at the same time, like they couldn't wait. I said, oh my God.
That's awesome. I love that. So obviously things are happening in Taiwan because it is the rudder, it is the tongue of that area.
And the enemy knows.
All right, very good. So Paul, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Very exciting things happening. I'm glad you decided to drop by and tell us all of this. This was very last minute. I remember when you first came up, you said, thanks for inviting me, but I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. I said, Scott, you didn't prepare me.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this is really exciting stuff. Thank you for letting us know what is going on there, because we hear, oh, well, Taiwan is sending people or helping through China, and that's all we know. But I didn't realize it had the impact through Korea, through Japan, through everything.
Oh, here's the thing. Okay, here's the takeaway from that international conference. So at the end, the Korean pastor and the Taiwanese pastor, we came to an agreement and say, hey, Taiwan, Chinese, Korean, and also Japan, we are also brotherhood. We are also brotherhood. Okay, so now that Korean Christians and Taiwanese, Christians, they go hand in hand. We go Japan and bring Japan out, and we all go back to Jerusalem together. I said, that is it. Now Japan come into the shooting range of God's end-time plan. That's so exciting.
Wow. Paul, thank you again. This is terrific. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. All right, well, I hope you share that passion that Paul does. Thank you again for joining us at Yom Teruah.